So the rhetorical situation that we're in today, for the students that haven't been enlightened to this, is I am a divisional manager of a company that is dumping toxic wastewater into the municipality's sewage system. And the audience today will be the C-level executives that are going to have to make a difficult call whether or not they should rebuild the system and make things up to code, or if they should just leave things as they are because technically it's not hurting anyone. So to begin, I want you to consider a few of the things that are in this very room that we sit in today. Look at the chairs that you're in. They have to meet a code. They have to meet a building requirement, and part of that undoubtedly must be that they've got to be fire retardant. They can't go up like kindling. So for the longest time on the market, there was a product called asbestos. Asbestos worked wonderfully. This was before the era of Nomex, but some of you might recall the asbestos suit for fighting fires. Asbestos in ceiling tiles and insulation. It worked wonderfully, but wouldn't you know that now the Center for Disease Control says no less than 600 people a year die from asbestosis and mesothelioma and other ailments related to disturbed asbestos. So it's not okay to use that anymore, and times have changed and people don't use it. Consider the paint on the walls. Is there lead in it anymore? Absolutely not. The same source says 900,000 children a year are treated for elevated levels of lead in their blood because of contact with old lead-based paint, with lead-based paint on toys. But certainly the manufacturers wouldn't be just injecting this poison into their products. A little bit won't hurt anyone, so it must be okay. Now consider one other scenario. Consider that the lights went out, that there are severe thunderstorms outside. And all of a sudden the lights come back on. Did the power come back on? No, that's the emergency generator outside. Now where's the exhaust plumbed? Well, more than likely, it comes through some of these walls. I'm not too sure, I'm not an architect, but it could be a safe bet to make. I certainly hope that they plumbed it correctly, but if not, you know, a little bit of carbon monoxide never hurt anyone, and no one meant to poison anyone, no one meant to gas anyone, so it's okay. It doesn't meet code, but who cares? So let's get back to our toxic dumping of this wastewater into the municipal sewage system. The first point, I'm going to make 3 points to you today. The first reason that it's not ethical to dump this water in, because you're doing it secretly. The public has no choice but to possibly drink the future treated water that would come from this toxic waste that you're dumping in. It would certainly make its way into the drinking water. The second point is that you're hurting the flora, the fauna, and the public. And that's not your right as a company. It's not your right as an executive. The third point I want to make is that people will lose jobs because undoubtedly this company will be discovered for dumping toxic waste. That's unethical and they'll be shut down. So let's get back to our first point. You're doing it secretly. Consider that you were on a trip and you went to a village and they didn't have running water, but they drew it from a well. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, someone set a jug of antifreeze on the side of the well, and you accidentally elbowed it in, and the lid was off, and it dumped all of that antifreeze into the well. No one saw you. Should I tell anyone? Oh, it'll be diluted. There's thousands of gallons of water down there. Who cares, right? That's not okay. Maybe if you warned the public, maybe if you warned the population of that village, it would be okay. You would give them an alternative. Was it messed up that you dumped antifreeze in the well? Absolutely, but at least you give them an alternative to draw water from the river or go to the neighboring village and get it out of that well. This company is not giving the public an alternative. That's a crime. Some people call it murder. You're poisoning them secretly. That's not okay. The second point I want to make is that you're not only hurting the public that doesn't know that they're being poisoned, but you're hurting the environment. This stuff will leach into the ground. There's no way to tell how many animals, how many plants will die, and how many people indirectly will be affected. Loved ones will be lost. Emotional distress will be incurred. So it's not okay. And this brings me to my third point. Because eventually all darkness is brought into light, this company is no exception. Consider Love Canal in the late 1950s. Consider Times Garden in Missouri, Times Beach, Missouri in the 1970s. These companies were dumping toxic chemicals. It was legal, but it wasn't okay. In fact, in the proceedings in Love Canal, One of the residents who happened to be a CEO of the company that was dumping the chemical had a seizure in court because he poisoned himself. He was unethically dumping these chemicals into the ground. Times Beach is no different. I would encourage you to look it up and realize now why the EPA puts these stringent regulations on toxic dumping. So if you, as a CEO, the COO, the CFO, can justify to yourself that, okay, we're not meeting code, but it's not really going to hurt anyone badly, you really need to question yourself. You need to question your priorities. Are you after profit, or do you want people to keep their jobs at your company and to live prosperous lives? The last point I want to make, and my third point, is can you honestly sit there and tell me that it will cost more to redesign the system and to revamp the system, and that cost will exceed all future profits that this company will make? If that's the case, then let's just shut down and not poison anyone. That's the ethical choice to make. So you really have two choices. You either shut the company down and expose the fact that you have leaked this into the municipal wastewater system, or you revamp the system, still admit it, but you redeem yourself and you do all that you can to make things right and clean it up. So to sum things up, it's unethical because people don't know that we're dumping this chemical into the wastewater. It's unethical because the plants, the animals, the people are going to be poisoned, and that's not your God-given right. It's not okay to do it. It's murder. And the third point is that a lot of people are going to be out of jobs, and that's going to exponentially affect many more people. So I hope you consider these points, and I know that the right and the ethical decision is to revamp the system. Thank you.